Hi everyone. Just before I start the video properly here, I'd like to just give a big thank you to all my viewers. My channel just recently surpassed 100 subscribers and I couldn't have done without you. So as an act of gratitude, I would like to do a fan requested review. So comment down below what movie you think I should review next in the new year of 2024. Anyway, so thank you once again, and here's your regularly scheduled program. Hi, my name is Eileen, and welcome to my review channel. So, 2023 was a pretty wild year for movies. The Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild of America went on strike simultaneously. The last time that happened, Ronald Reagan was president of the Screen Actors Guild. And he approved the strike. Yeah, that did not age well. Anyway, I digress. AI was also incorporated in movies to mixed effects. It gave us de-aged Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and it gave us whatever the hell that was in Prom Pact. And the MCU had its first bona fide box office bomb, a pretty big deal for the MCU. I mean, 2023 didn't exactly start off well with Ant-Man Quantumania, but I mean, on a $200 million budget and a $500 million in gross, again, that's probably not as much money as Disney would have liked the film to make, but that's not like, box office bomb, oh my god, what are we going to do now? Like, the Marvels is, again, I reviewed it, about a month back, and it's alright, but still, I mean, pretty big deal for it to bomb as hard as it did. But through this mess of a year, there were some pretty cool movies, and now I'm going to talk about them. So, the qualifications for this list are as such. The film must have been released during the 2023 calendar year, and I must have seen it during the 2023 calendar year. So, re-releases of, of old movies do not count for the list. So, without further ado, here are my top 10 favorite movies for 2023, plus 5 honorable mentions. Okay, coming in at the bottom of the list at number 10 is Barbie. I'm telling you, this movie is more than just enough. It's got everything. It's got Ken Gosling, playing a, beach Ken whose only thing is beach, and yet he goes from that to a full-blown revolutionary. And yet somehow the coup he and the other Kens try to pull is somehow still less stupid than what happened on January 6th. Like, I mean, hey, at least they got to have a fun fight and no one died. I mean, so that right there makes it a whole lot more entertaining than what actually happened on January 6th. Plus, Margot Robbie, she is great at the physical comedy. Everyone loves to talk about Ryan Gosling, but Margot Robbie really aces it too. Everything from the fake drinking. Like, my favorite moment is when she's given a cup with actual water in it, tries to drink it, is like, I'm not used to this having water in it. Again, also America Ferrera, she's really funny as well. I love her. She's like, oh, depression Barbie and dark thoughts and thoughts of death Barbie. Like, she really has a fun time with the role too. Also, Michael Cera as Alan. I mean, he's funny. He's the kind of guy, he has a hard time getting over a white picket fence, yet he can go full Scott Pilgrim on a bunch of construction Kens that don't know how to construct a wall properly. They only know how to construct it up. And Will Ferrell, I mean, I feel like this is kind of his big comeback movie. Well, maybe not big comeback. The dude's been starring in movies, but as of late, they haven't been good. Like the Fall, that remake of, some foreign film regarding a ski accident. And then there was the abomination known as Holmes. Like, people were kind of getting tired of Will Ferrell for a while. And I think Barbie properly resurrected, his status and made people go, oh yeah, he can be funny. Right, I forgot about that. The only reason this film is at the bottom of the list is the pacing, as when the film enters the third act, the film kind of loses the tight pacing the film had up to that point. Like, at one point, it's like, they go to Barbie Land. It's like, Ken has, brainwashed all the Barbies. And, then it's like, okay, we need to get together and we need to deprogram the Barbies. And I don't know. It felt like the film loses a lot of momentum, because, all the characters are kind of moping around. They're sad. But again, it's not a huge problem. It's still, the third act still is plenty of fun. The I'm Just Ken song is amazing and deserves an Oscar. So, let's move on with the list, shall we? Okay, coming in at number 9 is Killers of the Flower Moon. I was fortunate enough to be able to read the novel upon which the film was based, and for the most part, I think the film did a pretty good job of adapting it. I mean, there were obviously some gaps within the story, like if there wasn't a document stating how a character felt about a given emotion, I mean, they had to, speculate a little bit as to what might have happened based off of what they did know. And I think the film did a good job of that. Some characters get a bit of the short shrift, like the FBI, or, well, they weren't known as the FBI at the time, but they're called that in the movie just to avoid confusion with the audience. They kind of get the short shrift in terms of characterization. Plus, the film, I feel like the film fails to fully capture just how horrific what happened to the Osages. Because, so the novel, unpacks about how it wasn't just the fact that Ernest Burkhart, and his uncle, it wasn't just the fact that they were involved in this conspiracy to kill off Osage to get more head rights. It's the fact that they were the only ones who were caught, because the novel goes into detail a whole bunch of various cases of mysterious deaths, of poisonings, killings, and just how this also conveniently caused a whole bunch of white people to get the oil rights. And I feel like the film tries to, with a montage, of everyone of various Osage getting killed in various ways, poisonings, assassinations, but I don't know. For me, it didn't quite convey the emotion. But of course, I feel like, the film was already 3.5 hours long. That might have been a bit difficult. But again, all my complaints notwithstanding, the film is still amazing. The performances are great. This film, Leonardo DiCaprio gives an amazing performance. Like, there's one particular moment where he finds out his son dies in jail, and he's just in fucking agony. It's like, wow. I mean, again, Robert De Niro, also a game. Lily Gladstone, really amazing. I look forward to seeing her in more projects. So, yeah, just great movie. Just maybe next time, a little bit shorter. It's like, again, very well paced and, better paced than Napoleon at 2.5 hours. But still, my butt start to hurt, when I pass the 3-hour mark. Okay, coming in at number 8 is The Holdovers. So this film is very simple. Paul Giamatti playing, a worn-out professor and, decides to take on a very troubled teenager who's been, left behind kind of by his mom and new stepfather. And, they bond. And along the way, they get to explore some beautiful, on-location shooting in Boston. Really great 70s period detail. And some of the most hilarious insults on the silver screen to date. Like, Paul Giamatti is given, so many funny insults, plus to give with arguably the best one coming at the end of the movie when he insults the headmaster. Again, I can't repeat it on screen, but still, it's amazing. Easily the best insult of the movie. And Paul Giamatti also gives great physical comedy, whether it's his inability to throw a ball or a bowling ball, or when he's stretching before bed, he's drunk, and then he rips a big one. It's hilarious. Just great movie, really recommend seeing it. Okay, coming in at number 7 is Oppenheimer. So, this film juggles so much. It juggles 3 separate timelines, each of which cross-cut each other, between each other at will. It tackles the Red Scare paranoia of the 50s. It tackles Oppenheimer's morally ambiguous philosophy. He does like his wiggle room, as he says at one point in the movie. and it tackles his complicated romantic life. And with the exception of that last one, I feel like the film does an amazing job tackling all of these subjects while having more tension in a given 5-minute scene than most films manage to do so in 2 hours. Like, just what the testing of the first bomb, that was really good. Plus, also, when Oppenheimer is getting grilled by the committee, that scene is so intense. Like, just so much so that the film literally compares it to having, like bright white light, and you really feel how Oppenheimer feels in that moment. But again, like I said, the film, again, the only slight problem is with approach to Oppenheimer's life with Gene Tatlock and his wife Kitty. It's very the touch and go approach to the storytelling doesn't quite work because, the film at one point drops a pretty big bombshell about how his wife had postpartum depression, or at least rather what we would call postpartum depression. And the film kind of refuses to elaborate further. It's like, she has a postpartum depression. Moving on, nothing you see here. It's like a little more detail, but then again, at 3 hours, this film was already long enough, and I already complained just a little earlier about how Killers of the Flower Moon makes your butt hurt by the 3.5 hour runtime by the time that expires. So, yeah, all right, you gotta make choices. Just, I don't know, it's just, with all of the complaints about Christopher Nolan and, his approach to female characters, it kind of makes you wish maybe Nolan would find a way to get his women characters a bit more of their proper due, if you know what I mean. Okay, coming in at number 6 is Past Lives. Pretty amazing directorial debut for director Celine Song. The film earns a spot on my list thanks to its empathetic writing and its cinematography. You can feel the empathy just radiating off the screen for the main characters. It feels empathy for Hae-sung's feeling of loneliness, for Greta, who's feeling torn between her American and Korean identities, and for Arthur's feelings of holding back his wife, whom he loves very dearly. The film goes to great pains to show just how much he loves her. And the director, she displays the utmost confidence in her main cast performances. She allows them to play out in unbroken one-takes that are very impressive, and the cinematography takes great advantage of the American and Korean locales. So, yeah, just great movie, really empathetic. And I've heard that, again, I'm not an immigrant, so it doesn't appeal to me in that perspective, but I've heard that this film appeals to a lot of people who are immigrants and have had, at least similar feelings within that, range of emotion of what Greta feels. Okay, coming in at number 5 is Asteroid City. So if Wes Anderson could Wes Anderson, and that Wes Anderson could Wes Anderson, this film is probably what would happen. It's like Wes Anderson said, I want to make my own Inception. This film has so many layers with, with how it balances the play and the black and white cinematography and the real life story and the meta elements. It's all very well handled. Like, this film doesn't talk down to you. It allows you, to, come to grips with the pace and the storytelling on your own time. And to the film's credit, the film does a great job at communicating it. Like I said, through the cinematography style, through the black and white. Very great job. All the characters, they have great humor, great pathos. Every character is so gosh darn likable and lovable, and yet they feel so human. Scarlett Johansson in particular, as a bit of a sort of a Marilyn Monroe stand-in of sorts, she is really good in this movie, and I hope to see her in more indie projects, post MCU. And this film, I don't know, I just remember leaving this movie with such a renewed sense of hope, which is no small feat given all that's happened since 2016, since the election of He Who Shall Not Be Named, and also 2020 when America got shut down by this little virus called COVID-19. So, yeah, just really great movie. Leaves you with a renewed sense of hope in people and things and life in general. Okay, coming in at number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So, feels. This film has all of them. Whether it's watching Baby Rocket, see all his friends die, the rabbit, and all the other friends get just brutally murdered. It's like, yikes. And just, Bradley Cooper, I mean, he gives probably the best performance in the movie by far, and that's no small feat. I mean, Bradley Cooper, of all the Guardians characters, he's actually had the most screen time. He was present in Endgame, after everyone all got snapped out of existence. He gives a sorrowful performance, and he manages to make Baby Rocket feel so distinct from the more weathered, more cynical Rocket. Amazing stuff there. Quill also has a great arc, coming to terms with the loss of the original Gamora, and now he has to deal with this Gamora who, I mean, by all means looks like Gamora, but isn't. I mean, I feel like anyone would have a hard time coming to grips with that. I mean, maybe not everyone would get drunk every night, but still, I mean, this film gets dark. And just seeing all the characters, I feel like James Gunn properly knows how to work with these characters, because again, while these characters weren't bad in Infinity War, you can feel the difference. I don't know, it's just something about how the rhythm and how the actors bounce off each other that feels just ever so more organic with James Gunn than it did with the Russo brothers. I mean, again, the only reason this film isn't higher up on my list is the pacing, because once the film, gets on to the main villains, big hideout, I don't know, the pacing kind of dies out a little bit. The film sort of runs out of story to tell, just more action scenes, which are very well shot, some of the best in the MCU, but still it's like, okay, when's the ending? Come on. Again, great emotional beats, just wish maybe it found, tighten its pacing a little bit. So coming in at number 3 is Dix the Musical. This film is from the same studio that released The Green Knight. Think about that for a moment. And once you're done thinking about that for a moment, go see this movie. Because if Skinamarink was the scariest movie of 2023, then this is the best comedy of 2023. I was laughing every second from watching, the two brothers, in their opening song talk about how macho they are, which is ironic because they're kind of like a gay parody of ultra macho men, to the final song closing musical number where the two brothers, after deciding to marry each other, because yeah, that happens, they find out that God is gay, and they proceed to call him a British slang for a cigarette. If you don't know what that means, you can Google it, but it is so politically correct, but in the best way possible. If you love South Park, this movie is for you. And if you find South Park to be aggressively unfunny and sophomoric, there are plenty of films on this list you can go watch. Okay, coming in at number 2 is Beau is Afraid. So this film is an epic 3-hour roller coaster that is designed to provoke anxiety at every turn, whether it's Joaquin Phoenix's character is trying to, buy a ball of water, that way he doesn't die from taking a pill, and, the counter is, grilling him over like a few pennies worth of money, and seeing, a bunch of homeless people literally invade his house like water rushing into a submarine. This film will not let you feel good about yourself for 3 hours. Ari Aster, he does a great job of conjuring trippy visuals. My favorite being like that little storybook sequence with the play in the forest, and Joaquin Phoenix imagines himself, and the film gains so many layers, meta layers upon meta layers, and seeing the story. It's so amazing. This film is beautiful to look at. And as for the visuals, well, let me put it this way. I was not expecting to get Joaquin Phoenix confronts a penis monster on my batshit crazy movie moments of 2023 bingo card. And before I cover the number 1 pick for best movie of 2023, here are some honorable mentions. Okay, first honorable mention, Creed 3. So, retroactively poor casting notwithstanding, with Jonathan Majors having recently been convicted of domestic abuse, now all those issues notwithstanding, Creed 3 earns an honorable mention thanks to newfound creativity being brought to the boxing genre movie via Michael Jordan, and I really look forward to seeing, Michael B. Jordan's directorial career because, wow, what a heck of a debut. Okay, next honorable mention, John Wick Chapter 4. So, the fact that these movies manage to keep topping each other is nothing short of a 21st century miracle. The characters, both old and new, are compelling. John Wick is awesome as ever. Winston is great. The Merovingian, he is amazing. Alexander Skarsgård is hilarious and intimidating, and when he stabs that knife through the bounty hunter's hand, it's like, yikes, that means a business. Yeah, again, the action sequences, they top each other, they keep getting more complex and amazing to watch. Again, if only this franchise could figure out how to rein in the runtime, because seriously, this film did not need to be 3 hours, we'd have a top 10 contender on our hands here, folks. Okay, next honorable mention, Skinamarink. Like I said earlier, this film was the scariest movie of 2023, and it came out in January. That's how high the bar was. I was afraid of the dark for at least a week after seeing this movie. That's every time in the theater, every time a jump scare came, after minutes of agonizing tension, I was like, I literally apologized to everyone else in the theater, and it kind of gave them a bit of a laugh. Maybe not the best, but still, that's how terrifying this movie was. It just, it does not make you feel good. Next honorable mention, Godzilla -1. So with plenty of heart to go along with its classic Godzilla action, -1, it shows that disaster movies are only as compelling as its characters. Something a certain director known for directing disaster movies would do well to learn. Sorry. And for the last honorable mention, The Creator. This film, again, narratively speaking, it's nothing too revolutionary. It's not as, the marketing called it, quote, a motion picture event. But visually speaking, yes. At $80 million, this film looks stunning. It looks like it has the budget of a $200 million movie. And yet there are $200 million movies that look even worse than this movie. So Hollywood, at least visually speaking, make more movies like these. Please. You can do it. I promise you, you don't have to spend $300 million to make a blockbuster. And my pick for the number one film of 2023 is, drumroll please, Eileen. So thanks to its amazing production value, it really captures that, New Massachusetts feel and the tight writing and the electric performances. Thomasin McKenzie is easily one of the best up-and-coming actresses of this generation, and her chemistry with Anne Hathaway is through the roof. Just Anne Hathaway as a blonde psychologist is just amazing. Her character is so well written, has so many layers. She comes across as kind of this, femme fatale of sorts, and yet, she has a very soft center, very empathetic for people. And the twist at the end where it's revealed, that Anne Hathaway's character's house, that it's actually not her house, that's actually the mother of the kid who's in jail. And that twist right there took me out, and yet it's so well set up. Everything, earlier she's when she's in her office, it's don't worry, there's a call button. If something goes wrong, I'll call you. And then later on in the film, after she's disappeared, she calls Eileen and says, hey, you want to come over? That right there, the hallmark of great writing. The film's twists are unpredictable, yet they're organic. So it's just, and the pacing is tight. Like there is not a single wasted moment on this in this movie. Like unlike all the other entries where I feel like, they kind of lose their gas at the end of the movie, this film maintained its tight pacing through the entire runtime. And so it's with all that I have no issue assigning this film the #1 seed. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. So, what did you think of this list? Were there films that you agreed with, films that you disagreed with, films that you think should have been on the list? So, what are your thoughts? Leave them down below.